Detox and your cancer journey. Why don't you join me right now as I interview Dr. Judy Seeger, naturopathic doctor who has been in the business of helping cancer patients for the past 20 years. And we've got lots to talk about in terms of why you need to absolutely use this missing link, namely to detox while you are on your cancer journey, when you do it, how you do it, and why it is so important. So Judy, so happy to have you here. Let's put gallery view so we both see each other. So welcome to my show. And basically, why is this your passion? You've devoted 20 years of your professional life to cancer patients. Tell me why.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much, Kirstin, for letting me be on here. I love everything that you're doing an awesome job helping people on their cancer healing journey. And so I'm happy to team up with you and help your viewers as well with what I know. So I got into it. Yeah, we've become good buds, right? Because we're on the same mission. We want to help to see people heal. So my thing is that when I was 12 years old, I was one of those moments where I had to take care of my favorite uncle, my Uncle Lou. Uncle Lou, just so you know, he's one of these, he goes to a party and was the life of the party, always making jokes and having a good time. But he was a big cigar smoker and he had a big pot belly and he ate horribly. He ate what he wanted to eat. And so I was at his house one day when his wife and my mom had to go out because he had ended up with stage 4 stomach cancer. And he was in so much pain. And stomach cancer is one of those, I mean, they're all painful, but stomach cancer, especially that's a rough one. And I remember sitting there 12 years old and I'm thinking, what can I do to help this guy with his pain? And of course at 12, I didn't know anything. And I'm thinking, where's the doctors to help him? Why aren't they helping them? And there was just, nobody knew anything. They just chemo. And then 6 months later, he died. And it was at that moment that I was sitting there. I remember that feeling of being so helpless for my favorite uncle. Is like, isn't there something that can be done? And I just started opening my mind to a journey of things that could be out there. So I became a vegetarian in my teens, to the worry of my mother, because like, oh, what are you going to do without meat, right? And I became a health seeker to help people, because not only did my uncle die, I had 2 aunts die of stomach cancer. I had my grandfather die of lung cancer. Many people in the family who died of cancer. And I was like, there's got to be other things out there. So learned about the food, learned about the different things that are out there. And I was like, yes, there are things out there, but it was pretty confusing, which of course is what happens to a lot of people. They get confused about what should be the things they should eat and do and help themselves with. So that's how the journey started, because of the family and everything that happened. And then being exposed to more and more people with cancer, it was like, I gotta help stop this epidemic. This is insane. And that is what has gotten my passion, my blood boiling. It's like, 30 years ago, it was maybe 1 out of 100 people had cancer. And then now, of course, it's, 1 out of 3. It's insane. So
think about that staggering statistic. I always say, wherever you go into the public, count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's staggering.
Staggering for sure. And it doesn't have to be. That's the cool thing, why what you're doing is so powerful and impactful, that people will get the truth from you and people like me, people who've been in this industry a long time and seen cancer reverse many times as well in your own life. So can be done. Just people need to know the truth. They need to know their options. They need to know what gets them results ultimately. And that's what that's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of talking what they can do, so I know you have specialized in the field of detox. That alone is quite a touchy subject, because we really need to understand what that means. So why don't you enlighten us?
Yes, so a medical doctor will always say that we don't need to detox because we have 5 ways to eliminate naturally, physiologically. So the little science about that is that you have your kidneys to help you detox, your bowels, your lungs, your skin, your liver, right? And they say, well, that's a natural way. You don't need to detox, which is true. That is what we have in our body. However, my issue is that, well, there are over 300,000 chemicals that are now we're exposed to in our foods each year. and our body just can't keep up. And that's just food. And that's according to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Then there's the water. There's hundreds, thousands of chemicals in our water. There's 200,000 chemicals as soon as we walk outside and we're driving in our car, we're exposed to the air, which is why we get allergies. We're sneezing and coughing constantly because of that. So our body just can't keep up. So years ago when I was trained by very famous healers, Dr. John Christopher, for example, Dr. Bernard Jensen, some of your people might know them, world famous healers. And they helped me to see, they says, listen, detoxing once or twice a year is great, but things will change and you need to get your awareness that these chemicals are growing more and more on us. Like, for example, yesterday I had 3 non-Hodgkin lymphoma people call me and said they had been exposed to Roundup, one by their yard, one they had been doing it. And they know that was the point when they had their cancer. And it's like, oh, that's incredible. Just one chemical, right? So
add it to whatever other burden you might have.
Right, exactly. And so we have to detox more regularly. I recommend 4 times a year, and those who have had chemo every month or every 6 weeks. And who does that? But that's super important. The more you detox when you've had chemo and radiation, the faster your immune system goes up. Yes. And so then it doesn't put so much burden on your kidneys, your bowels, your lungs, your liver, all that. It takes the relief away, builds up your immune system because your body doesn't have to work on those toxins anymore. So pretty often, and we could go into that if you want to, that depending on chemo and radiation, depending on if they've not had it, there's a little bit of difference there. And they just need to know that that's the most important missing piece that we're talking about is they could eat well, but if they're not getting rid of those toxins on a regular basis, their body's not going to be able to absorb and digest the foods as well.
Such a valid point, yes. And maybe let's distinguish here. So on the one hand, we have those that are going through conventional treatments like myself, adopting a complementary approach, wanting to know what else can I do, and maybe focus on that group for a little bit because the timing of the detox is very important here, as of course is the fact that you have to detox because you're adding such a toxic burden with these treatments to your system, which can, the effects of that can be lingering for years to come. Speaking of personal experience too. So on the one hand, we have that group, and then maybe we can just touch on, so if you are using detoxification or you're going the alternative route, and let's distinguish what natural and alternative is. So when we say alternative treatments, we are saying not conventional, we're saying other methods, and there are a myriad of different methods out there. And of course, detoxification has a bit of a different connotation there. So let's just, touch on that as well. But let's swing back to the group that is undergoing or has undergone conventional treatments. And with that, I mean surgery, I mean chemotherapy, I mean radiation therapy, immunotherapy, hormone therapy, vaccinations. There's a whole plethora of different types of treatments that fall into this rubric of conventional cancer treatments.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Kirstin. Vaccinations are definitely an issue, and hormone therapy, all those chemicals definitely change the system, and the body just can't handle it. So just to start out with an overview, anytime you put any kind of chemicals in your body, especially chemo, but any kind, it takes an average, depending of course how much you've had, an average of 2 years to completely get it out of your system. Mm-hmm. And that's really working hard on getting rid of it. So 2 years minimum. Typically we say 5 years to 7 years to completely clean out the body. Now that sounds really depressing. Wow, that's a long time, right? But here's the cool part is when you have the right detox methods, it could actually go out much sooner. Yeah. That's the cool part. We're going to share that later on. So the thing is that when someone is on chemo radiation surgery at the moment, let's just start there, you cannot detox. And I'll tell you why, is because if you're detoxing at the same time, what's going to happen is the chemicals will come out very quickly. And yes, your immune system will go up, but the doctors will get a different reading. Yeah. And the medical doctors will say, well, hey, we typically do for this particular kind of cancer 12 treatments, but it's not working. And so we're going to have to give you more, right? And that's not a good thing, right? Yeah. So we want them to do, if you choose, we're not judging anybody. If you want to do your chemo and radiation surgery, do it, but then build up your immune system at the time. So I never just teach detoxing. I always say, listen, whatever kind of medication or conventional treatment you're doing, continue doing things for your immune system and detox after, right? Because then that'll give your body the chance to say, okay, I've done all these things, my immune system is okay, but now it's time to clear house and get rid of those toxins that have built up. So wait, and then people say, well, how long should you wait? Well, average, I say, depending, if they're, just again, general, if they're feeling strong, then 2 weeks is fine. So the last chemo treatment, the last radiation, the last surgery, the last whatever, at least 2 weeks of doing nothing and then going into an extensive detox program is perfect. If they're feeling a little bit weak, might be 4 weeks, might be 6 weeks. Okay, so that kind of covers that, right?
I think that's, again, an important point to make, because we're all very different and we all emerge from these treatments very differently. And of course, we're being monitored as to how are our systems of elimination coping with the treatment. So they, our liver is always being monitored, our kidneys are being monitored, sometimes our heart is being monitored. So, they're under stress at that time. So when we sort of move into a detox period, first of all, we also need to understand that we can't do this by ourselves. So I strongly, strongly discourage anyone from figuring out, let me try this detox package, or let me read this up on Google and just buy this packet and do it myself. Please don't do that, because we don't know how your system will react to, and you might have to take it very slowly. You need to be in the hands of a professional in order to do it right. And to continue.
Like if it's a weight loss, that's a great point, because if it's a weight loss program, you could just detox 1 day, 3 days, 7 days. It's not a big deal. You're absolutely right. But this is something more serious, and you need to know and see that as you get things like the Herxheimer effect is very common, and it doesn't have to be.
And what is that? Explain that, because I don't think necessarily people know what that means. We know, we know what the Herxheimer's reaction is, but what is that?
Yeah, so, and I'm really in disagreement with it. So I'm a little bit controversial with that. So, okay, first off, the Herxheimer is when the body has got a lot of toxins and getting rid of it too quickly. Typically, it's going to go through the liver and then through the colon and then out. The challenge is so many people are blocked in so many areas of their body that they can't handle it. And so it starts coming out the fastest way possible, typically through vomiting, typically through rashes, typically through severe, severe headaches where you feel like you have the flu. You could have fevers, that kind of thing. And it just simply means that you're detoxing too fast for your body to handle in a natural process. Not dangerous, but you sure feel like crap, right? And you feel really bad. Now,
it can get dangerous. I mean, we have to be very, I really want to say it can. It really just depends on your biochemistry. But, so there is a certain element of caution that I really want to place on this, because I've seen cases where, it was a little bit.
It can. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so, and it's scary because you don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's a cancer, you don't know if it's a reaction.
Yes, exactly. There's a whole education associated with what can you expect when you're detoxing.
So what I teach, and my experience, and especially the last 10 years, I've figured out how to avoid it just about completely. Like my people have maybe like an 80% success. They don't get the reaction. But what I've learned, and this is very difficult for a lot of people unless they're working with me, is to go super slow and adjust things as your body is going through
all the time, right? Yes. And I can speak from my personal experience here, if I can just interlude. It was the same thing. Is I also was very committed and determined to do as much as possible, and it was just too much. It was just too much for my body, and I also had to learn that I needed to take much smaller steps and do it gradually. That I'm still doing it, but it might take double or triple the time. It's still working though, but that's just what my body needs. Period. I can't argue or negotiate with it.
Yeah, exactly right. So you want to do it for a short amount of time and go very, very slowly. And then the beauty of this is that when you go slowly like that, you might not get the biggest results in the world, but your body won't be stressed out with this Herxheimer effect. And then you could repeat it in 4 to 6 weeks. See, and then your body was like, oh, I could get rid of some more toxins, and then you repeat another 4 to 6 weeks, and you could, and so that way you avoid a lot of these reactions.
Yeah.
And if you do it in the right order, which is also very important, people don't know, you have to cleanse the colon first and then the liver.
Yes.
Super important. And you do that.
I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah, it's super important. People don't know the order. They just go willy-nilly and go do colonics or coffee enemas. And I'm like, dude, that's not enough. That's just not enough.
You cannot be constipated, right? You cannot have that. You have to be able to eliminate. That's like the one key thing. And if you are still constipated because of as a result of your treatments, then that's the only thing one needs to work on until that is no longer an issue for you.
Yep, and there's quite a few ways to do. Most typically people do, let's say the Gerson therapy, they do the coffee enema, which is fine, but I don't see that as being enough. I believe in using herbs, I believe in using foods, I believe in using a combination effect. That's what keeps these serious effects away from you when you're doing a nice multifaceted, super simple things you could do at home. You just do it consistently, and then guess what? The detox goes very smoothly because your body's not stressed out. It's already been through stress with the chemo and radiation and all this stuff. It doesn't need any more stress, right? So we just need to go nice and easy, and that way the body could say, okay, I'm gonna release it, and it goes in a nice smooth process. You might feel a little bit off, but then I'd say, well, then adjust it. Then maybe you need to eat a little bit more. Maybe you need to have some detox foods. Maybe you need to have a little herbs, a little bit more, like liver cleansing herbs. And then that way you don't feel the effects as much, see? So it works.
Absolutely. And if I can throw this in, because we discovered that over a year ago, we bought ourselves a far infrared sauna for the house. And that act alone, in going into the sauna where it's not so much that the room is heated up, steamy like a normal sauna, but it raises your core temperature. So that's what really happens. So it still gets hot, but it's a dry heat, but your core temperature is being raised and you start to sweat. And even if you're the type of person who will say, I don't sweat, well, you will if you go regularly. That act alone, I cannot tell you what the effect has been on myself and my husband in terms of how you feel, how your body basically sighs in relief, going, thank you for offering me this other opportunity to get rid of things and to just normalize. And again, I say that, but at the same time, we have to mention when you sweat so much like that, you have to ensure that you don't, deplenish your mineral supply, because of course you're sweating a lot, you're losing minerals, valuable minerals. So there's always two sides to the coin, and it needs to be approached in an educated way.
Yeah, just to jump back a step on that one, the skin is your largest detoxifying organ in your body. So it's a great way to do that. What people need to be aware, so they don't get scared, is that if they've had chemo, if they've had radiation, certain medication, there'll be rashes coming out. Yes. I have literally seen in my clinic, when I have my clinic, chemo coming out of people. How do you tell? You can smell it. Yeah. Super, super strong.
Yeah. Your perspiration, you stink.
Really bad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Normal, yeah, that's okay. And so there's some things like having a salt scrub or having dry skin brushing to open up your pores could get rid of it more quickly. But and it doesn't last long. So that's the good part. So maybe anywhere from 3 days to a couple of weeks, you might have that rash. And it's best not to put anything on the skin at that time because you don't want to block the pores. You want to keep everything open. And that really makes it go by more quickly. So many times people are like, can I just put some coconut oil because it hurts, it's burning. And I'm like, listen, why don't you just go in a nice cool shower, do a nice detox bath using maybe some clay, and that helps to pull out even more. And then you won't have that itchy burning feeling as much. And then you'll feel better. And so there's little tricks like that that helps them so they don't feel that it's not something they can do, like putting the oil on, but something that helps draw out the chemicals even faster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the interest of time, mindful of both our schedules, let's briefly focus on the using detox and the alternative method, just for an understanding what the difference is. And then I'd like you to explain a little bit too on, you have a particular method that you really stand behind. And I'd like you to talk about that a little bit as well, if you want to.
Sure. So as far as the alternative versus conventional, so alternative detox, again, it's a little controversial. I believe that there are things you could do at home that could detox you with methods that are multifaceted. So a conventional detox, they use medication a lot of times, right? And that's, got its side effects. And whereas when you do alternative, you're using your body's 5 different ways of detoxing to release it. So for example, when you're doing the colon and the liver, you're using herbs to move the colon and something to stimulate the liver to release the toxins. Are these herbs safe? Absolutely. Are they easy on your body? Absolutely. Is there any side effects? No. And what about your kidneys? Yes, there's herbs for that as well. And there's foods that you could eat. For example, beets are fantastic for liver. We talk about that all the time.
Dandelion greens.
Dandelion greens, absolutely. Yeah. Beet top greens. Anything bitter is excellent. Now, something a little bit unconventional, but certainly perfectly safe is something I talk about all the time in my program is ozone therapy. So ozone therapy is simply 3 oxygen molecules bound together. So what does that mean? When the sun, the ultraviolet rays from the sun come down, it takes the oxygen molecules that is in the atmosphere and splits them. And as they split, now you've got these oxygen molecules, they're unstable looking around, and then they bind together in this threesome, which makes it super, super strong. So what they've developed is a generator now that actually makes ozone that people could use to get their system so strong that the toxins leave. So here's what happens. As the ozone comes into the body, and there's different ways it comes into the body, through your skin, through rectally, vaginally, through drinking water, that as the ozone comes in, this gas, this 3 oxygen molecules, it stimulates the immune system, which is your #1 defense against cancer, yeah? So as it stimulates it, it goes after the bacteria, the virus, the fungi, the mold, all the things that don't belong in your body to get rid of them. And so it's strictly oxygen. There's like 0.00007% side effects because it's oxygen. So what I've learned is when I mix this detox using herbs and food and saunas, like you mentioned, with the ozone therapy, that is the most powerful combination I ever saw in my clinic. Whether it was 1st stage cancer to 4th stage cancer, when I mixed those 2 together, that was the one that put people over the edge to help them because their immune system was so stimulated. Very, very exciting. It's relatively new technology, although it's been around for 150 years. Nikola Tesla was the one who created the ozone generator back 100 years ago. People don't know this. It's like, what? It's ozone that's been around for, all we hear is the bad things about ozone in the atmosphere. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about an ozone that comes into the body to help increase the oxygen levels and help you fight. That's the exciting part, yeah?
A thought just occurred to me because it had been a question, and this was also on discussion at a conference I went to this year, actually by naturopathic oncologists, about when people are on immunotherapy, which, is still a fairly new treatment area where we got to be mindful because it's a different type of treatment than chemotherapy is, than radiation is. So in order for that treatment also to be effective, you've got to be mindful not to overstimulate the immune system, or sometimes you need to, but more to modulate or to regulate the immune system. So kind of a distinction needs to be made. What is stimulatory and what is regulatory? And I don't know if you would like to comment on that, just kind of in our closing remarks, just to kind of get that distinction right and just get people to understand that conventional treatment isn't just conventional treatment. And if we are, trying to use these techniques as a complementary method, meaning in addition to our conventional treatments, we just need to understand that.
Yeah, and that's a great point because people do get worried now that they're overstimulating their immune system. So it's a great point. Ozone therapy, what I found, because it's just oxygen, doesn't do that. It's a very natural process. And so you do have to be careful with other things that you're using that it can overstimulate. Anything, even if it's good, if it overstimulates the system, it's considered stress. And so we cannot do that. So with ozone, for example, it's a very, very small dose of oxygen that goes into your system. And because it's done over time, 5 minutes a day, every day, it doesn't.
Like radiation therapy.
No, and so here's the other point with that, Kirstin, is that people ask, can they use it with chemo? And the answer is yes, because it's oxygen. So again, it stimulates the immune system without doing any damage with the chemo. Yeah. Can you use it with other alternative things like herbs and foods? Absolutely. Again, because it's oxygen and it's in a small dose, you could do it daily and it's not a problem. Yeah. So that works very well.
Yeah. So if people are interested to explore this further, how could they get more information or hold of you? How could they take this further if they are keen to do that?
Yeah, the best thing is just to go to my website, and we have all kinds of cool summits and information coming up on there. So it's judyseegerdetox.com, and they could sign up. They could contact me through there. Phone number, everything is there. judyseegerdetox.com, super simple, and more than happy to help your people, Kirstin. Not a problem.
Great. So again, your name, your full name, judyseegerdetox.com. Remember that and go check it out. And I really would like to thank you for being here and sharing all your wisdom and your knowledge. And I think this is so ultra important. People need to be educated, and people need to understand choices and just need to understand the options that they have and when to use something and when to practice a bit of caution, and because we need to understand how the body functions as well. So thank you for contributing to that wisdom.
Thank you for your work, Kirstin, too. Appreciate you and all that you've done to help other people.
Well, you're very welcome. So everybody take care for now. Remember, it's judyseegerdetox.com. So have a good day, everyone, and take care for now.